For generations, churches across Australia stood as beacons of hope, community, and unwavering trust. They were sanctuaries where families sought solace, guidance, and spiritual nourishment. Yet, beneath this veneer of sanctity, a horrifying truth festered, shattering lives and eroding the very foundations of faith. This is not merely a historical account. It is an urgent, critical call to confront a profound betrayal that demands immediate, unwavering action from us all. Religious institutions are built upon an implicit covenant of trust, a sacred promise to protect the vulnerable. Parents entrusted their children to Sunday schools and youth programs, believing them safe within the embrace of faith. Communities looked to their leaders for moral guidance, expecting integrity and compassion. This sacred trust was not just broken, it was systematically violated in the most heinous ways imaginable. The consequences have rippled through generations, leaving an indelible scar on individuals, families, and the collective conscience of a nation. This is a crisis that demands our full attention, a wound that continues to bleed. The question is no longer if trust was shattered, but how such catastrophic failures were allowed to persist. We must critically examine the structures that enabled this profound betrayal and demand genuine accountability. This is not just about past wrongs, it's about safeguarding every child, every vulnerable person, right now and into the future. The Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse, a monumental inquiry from 2013 to 2017, ripped open the veil of secrecy. It exposed a decades-long nightmare of systematic misconduct, revealing a horrifying scale of abuse across nearly every denomination. Thousands of cases, thousands of shattered lives emerged from the shadows. Catholic, Anglican, Uniting Church, Salvation Army. No major institution was spared from the damning revelations. The Commission heard from over 8,000 survivors, their testimonies painting a chilling picture of widespread institutional failure. This was not a few isolated incidents. It was a pervasive, systemic crisis. The evidence was overwhelming, leaving an inescapable question hanging heavy in the air. How could these abuses persist for so long, often for decades, without detection or intervention? How did so many in positions of authority either turn a blind eye or worse, actively conspire to conceal these atrocities? This historical failure is a critical lesson for all. The failures were not accidental. They were deeply embedded within the institutional fabric of these organizations. A profound lack of oversight permeated every level, creating an environment where predators thrived and victims were silenced. Church leadership repeatedly prioritized protecting their institution's reputation and assets over the safety and well-being of innocent children. Reports of abuse were routinely delayed, dismissed, or never made to civil authorities. When concerns were raised internally, they were often met with denial, intimidation, or the insidious practice of simply moving accused perpetrators to new parishes, allowing the cycle of abuse to continue unchecked. This was a deliberate, calculated strategy of concealment. Communities found themselves powerless against powerful church hierarchies that operated with minimal external scrutiny for generations. These institutions, designed to provide spiritual protection, instead became breeding grounds for profound harm. Policymakers must recognize that such insular power structures are inherently dangerous and demand robust external accountability. The impact on survivors is an unbearable, lifelong burden. They carry the scars of severe trauma, often compounded by social stigma, isolation, and the profound betrayal of those they trusted most. Many were blamed, disbelieved, or ostracized by the very communities that should have offered solace. Their faith, their sense of self, and their ability to trust were irrevocably damaged. Entire communities experienced a collective shock, a deep crisis of faith and trust. The revelation that their sacred spaces harbored such evil forced a fundamental questioning of everything they believed. If this could happen in their church, what else had they been wrong about? This collective trauma demands collective healing and unwavering support. For survivors, healing is an arduous, often lifelong journey. It requires not just acknowledgement, but genuine accountability, comprehensive support, and a commitment to justice. Without these, the wounds remain open, a constant reminder of profound betrayal. We must listen to survivors, believe them, and center their needs in every reform effort. Australia has responded to the Royal Commission's harrowing findings with significant, albeit overdue, reforms. Mandatory reporting laws now compel anyone working with children, including clergy, to report suspected abuse to civil authorities. This is a critical step, but its enforcement must be rigorous and unwavering. Independent oversight bodies have been established, tasked with monitoring religious institutions and ensuring compliance. Mandatory clergy training, comprehensive background screening, and improved complaint mechanisms are now in place. These measures represent a crucial shift towards greater transparency and protection. However, serious questions persist. Are these measures truly sufficient to prevent future abuse, or are they merely scratching the surface? How effectively are they being enforced across diverse denominations, particularly those resistant to external scrutiny? Policymakers must remain vigilant, ensuring that religious freedom is never used as a shield for criminal behavior or institutional negligence. The Australian experience is not an isolated tragedy. It is a stark warning for faith communities worldwide. Similar scandals have erupted in Ireland, the United States, Canada, and beyond, revealing a global pattern of systemic issues within religious institutions. The lessons from Australia are clear, urgent, and universally applicable. Transparency is not negotiable. It is a moral imperative. Accountability cannot be optional. It is the bedrock of trust. Community involvement in safeguarding is absolutely essential, empowering congregants to demand protection for the vulnerable. The global church must learn from Australia's painful reckoning. The bigger question for churches everywhere is this: how do you balance spiritual authority and traditional hierarchy with the kind of transparency and accountability that genuinely protects vulnerable people? Can traditional church structures adapt to modern expectations of safeguarding, or do they require a fundamental, radical reimagining? This is a critical moment for global faith. These abuse scandals highlight the urgent need for deep, transformative cultural change within religious institutions. It's not enough to simply implement new policies on paper. There must be a fundamental shift in how power operates, how complaints are handled, and how vulnerable individuals are genuinely protected. This requires a profound ethical awakening. Faith communities have a moral obligation and a unique opportunity to foster genuinely open dialogue, develop ethical leadership models, and implement protective policies that are not just effective, but deeply embedded in their values. This means dismantling cultures of secrecy and replacing them with cultures of care and accountability. Religious leaders must champion this change. But this raises a challenging question. Can religious organizations truly reform themselves while clinging to traditional concepts of spiritual authority and hierarchical leadership that historically enabled abuse? Is meaningful change possible without sustained external pressure and a willingness to critically examine their own power structures? Policymakers must ensure that external pressure remains. So, let us confront the toughest questions with unwavering resolve. How do survivors ever regain trust in faith communities after experiencing such profound, soul-destroying betrayal? What roles must governments, religious institutions, and individual congregations each play in prevention, accountability, and the long, arduous journey of healing? What does this difficult, painful history teach us about the complex, often fraught relationship between faith, power, and the sacred responsibility to protect the vulnerable? These questions do not have simple answers, but asking them honestly, persistently, and with a fierce commitment to justice is the absolute first step toward real, lasting change. The work is far from over. The story of church abuse scandals in Australia is agonizing to recount, and even more agonizing to hear. But it is absolutely necessary. It serves as an urgent, critical reminder that accountability, transparency, and honest self-reflection are not optional extras for faith communities. They are vital, non-negotiable requirements for their very legitimacy. To religious leaders, your moral authority is at stake. You must lead with courage, dismantle cultures of secrecy, and prioritize the safety of every child above all else. Implement robust safeguarding support survivors unequivocally, and commit to genuine, transparent accountability. Your institutions must become true sanctuaries, not places of hidden harm. To policymakers, your duty is to protect all citizens, especially the most vulnerable. Enact and rigorously enforce legislation that ensures mandatory reporting, independent oversight, and comprehensive redress for survivors. Close every loophole that allows institutions to evade justice. Religious freedom must never be a shield for abuse. To survivors, we hear you. We believe you. Your courage in speaking out has changed Australia's religious landscape forever. Your voices matter. Your experiences demand action. Your healing must be at the absolute center of any path forward. We stand with you in your pursuit of justice and healing. This is the Scholar's Ledger, where history, faith, and power are revealed. Subscribe, share this critical message, and join us in the relentless pursuit of truth, justice, and a future where no child is ever again betrayed by those entrusted with their care. The time for silence is over. The time for urgent action is now.